Well, hello and welcome back to Read Becca. It is time once again for my weekly chatty catch up on everything I've read, everything I'm currently reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading for roughly the current week. And you can tell I've changed the frame here because as I was setting up, Rue was wagging his tail and it was coming into frame, and so I was like, I'll just turn things so that Rue, while napping, can co-host. The cats used to co-host quite often, and they just haven't been around on this side of the room as frequently lately. So anyway, onward to the book that I finished this week, which was The Bishop's Villa by Sacha Naspini and translated by Clarissa Botsford, this lovely Droba edition. And you can see on the cover, maybe, hopefully, there is a man and a woman with a gun on the front here, lovely cover in snow in Italy, and the villa back here. So what's important to know going into this book is that it is inspired by history, and it's set in Grosseto, Italy, a real occurrence that the author himself is from Grosseto, so there's a personal connection there. Grosseto holds an unusual honor. During the entire period of the Holocaust, it is the only diocese in Europe to have signed a legally binding rental contract for a prison camp. Between 1943 and 1944, 100 or so Italian and non-Italian Jews destined for the extermination camps were held prisoner in the Ricadere Seminary. When the Allies freed the villa, they found almost nothing. All the material regarding the prisoners, how many there were, which families, etc., and the documents detailing the bishop's role had disappeared. The surviving papers are incomplete and only allow a partial reconstruction. So that sounds like a really fascinating premise, right? And I read, I think a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, The Escape Artist, which is a nonfiction book about a Jewish man who escaped death camps just after they had become a thing. From Germany, he fled and sought to tell anyone who would listen, including trying to reach the Catholic Church. And we now know very much that they sort of rebuffed him and ignored him because they were already aware. They knew, and we have things like this. So the interesting juxtaposition of those two things. So this story is taking place and is giving a fictionalized version, imagining what happened then and at the villa where these prisoners were being held. But we're through the eyes of a local villager, René, who is the local cobbler. And he has not been impressed into military service or otherwise murdered for being an adult man, more or less, because he's the local cobbler and the military soldiers, the Nazis, need their boots fixed a lot. He's also disabled. He is missing 2 fingers on his hand. That's why he's not in military. So they're under occupation, and you feel that very much from the sense of the villagers. They really don't like these Nazis being there. And the impression we get of the soldiers right off the bat are really terrible, really abusive to the people who are living there, unkind, cruel to the women specifically. And so they're just kind of an ominous presence. But René is kind of this innocuous character. He just sort of floats through, like there isn't much to him. And we are entirely in his mind. But what's important about him is because he is a cobbler and he's servicing these soldiers in that way, he has this access to them. And on the flip side, he also secretly is talking to rebels who are living in the forest, including this woman, Anna. And Anna is obviously someone he has a romantic interest in, but she's someone he's covering for as well, because she recently lost her son, who was murdered by the Nazi soldiers. I assume adult son, probably. But he's been telling everyone, because people are asking about her because she's kind of disappeared, he's been covering for her that she's just locked up at home, she's grieving so severely, and she just needs more time. When in fact, she has taken off into the woods to join the rebels who are living out there and preparing to rebel against the soldiers. But strangely, Anna's never really a character in the book. Like, she's very prominent in his mind, and he has built up his ideas of her, and yet we don't really see her as a person. And so that was the first downfall for me of this book. The other thing is that, like, just the execution of the story didn't work. I wanted this to be something like Claire Keegan's Small Things Like These, and I feel like it could have been. And I just never had that emotional connection where we see this sort of worker who is going about his day-to-day mainly and uncovering this horrible information, and then kind of varying back and forth between these Nazis and the people trying to resist them. But there just wasn't that emotion to it or connection to the story even. because almost foreground were in his head as he's just rambling, And then the background is what's actually happening. And some of that is really dramatic and should be tense. And I never felt a moment of tension in this, or drama. So, I mean, there was literally a moment where like a chapter, I think, ended with a car crash. And I hadn't even realized that they were in the car because we were going through these really winding, rambling thoughts. And we get to, oh, suddenly they're wrecked and they've been driving really recklessly. And I go back and find, yeah, it was mentioned, but barely. So I don't know if that was about my mental state in the moment this week or the book, but to me, it felt like the execution was a little strange. I think it is a worthy story, so I did read the whole thing and finish it. It's fairly short, and I think works like this are important to be translated and to have out there, but I didn't connect with it or feel wowed by it or anything emotional about it, unfortunately. So that was kind of a disappointment. I am currently reading now onward to my second BookTube prize book, which is really large and really, really heavy and dark. So that's going to take me a little time, I think. I'm trying really hard to progress through it quickly, but it's almost 500 pages of actual book before you get to the notes. So, and it's a really grim subject. So I started a very light book to balance that out. In honor of Joy Reading June, I just randomly picked up Cat's People by, I think, Tanya Guerrero. I'm sure I'll finish it this week and get to that one. So I needed some light reading, and I'm audiobooking that one. And I think that's all I have reading, which seems like not very much. Onward to stuff I watched this week. I wound up accidentally continuing on with more Top Chef old seasons because I hadn't watched Top Chef season 10 while I was reading Kristen Kish's book. So I continued on to season 12 because that was also available on Netflix. So that is pretty much all that I finished watching this week, and it was enjoyable as usual. So as far as life has been chaos this week. I don't know, and the stuff in the world and the heavy things that I'm reading for BookTube Prize, I think, are kind of like beating away at my empathy a little bit. So somewhat unintentionally timed, I had already chosen to give myself sort of a rest week this week, and very consciously knew I didn't have some normal weekly obligations that are off this week. There was a holiday this week, weird Thursday holiday, Juneteenth, in the US, celebrating the end of slavery, and happily I have the day off work, so I had a midweek holiday I knew coming up. And just generally, I was feeling I needed to just slow down a little bit. And so I pretty much stopped and didn't do anything that was optional, more or less. I skipped the gym, had physical and mental rest. And then, like, Monday night, I wound up, Tuesday is my trash day. So Monday night, I started gathering the trash, and then I was like, oh, well, I might as well, clean the fridge while I'm doing this, if I'm throwing stuff up, So I wound up, like, my Monday night was that, and then I vacuumed, because I was like, oh, I might as well vacuum right now. I kind of need to do it, and that way I can put that in the trash. And so I wound up doing all this cleaning on Monday, and then had a nice clean house for the rest of the week, so I didn't have to do anymore. So that helped, meaning, other than work, I pretty much was at home, was reading or watching things. I caught up on a lot of BookTube, though I'm nowhere even close to caught up. So I do have a lot of recommendations today, thankfully. But so that was really nice. Actually, it was kind of a mental deload that I needed, and that helped, but also it was a lot of information, and I tried to slow down in terms of letting my brain have breaks of just doing nothing and hanging out with the cats and stuff. So that helped to back away from a lot of things that were going on. My one obligation this week was the doctor, going for a follow-up appointment, because if you've not seen my video about menopause books, which I assume a lot of people probably skipped, that I mentioned there I've had some chronic health issues going on, and went on a medication that has put me into menopause intentionally, like that was expected outcome. So this was the follow-up after a couple months of being on it to make sure everything's okay, and like, yeah, I'm having menopause symptoms, surprisingly. So everything was good, but like wild, talking to my doctor there, she was a little out of sorts because she's getting prepared to go testify to Congress about reproductive rights and abortion bans in our state. And so I was like, oh, wow, like, that's a pretty big deal. You're amazing, and I appreciate you so much. So it was incredible. She's very cool, and it was great, like just talking to her generally, both about my situation and about this. So like that was a crazy moment, and I hope that it went well or has gone well. But yeah, that was very intriguing, coming off of just having read a BookTube prize book on that topic. So anyway, onward to today. Today, it is so hot. It is so hot. So I really did need that week off of doing stuff. All my evenings were basically just like shutting down, sitting down, reading, watching BookTube. I did, however, on my day off, turn over finally my closet from winter stuff to summer stuff just in time for us to have a crazy heat wave. It is so hot here. I went outside this morning to clean my windows because I've been needing to do that as well. I'm just catching up on all this stuff. I needed to do that, went out at like 9:30 and for maybe 15 minutes and was just like dripping with sweat down my face. I'm like not exaggerating. Literally, it was just streaming down my face. So it is so hot. And I don't know how the cats do it because they should not be in front of the hot window. That's what they are. So anyway, not a very eventful week, but I do feel like I accomplished a lot and I relaxed a lot. So I wish I were feeling a little better. Unfortunately, some of those chronic health issues expectedly kind of cropped up at the end of this week. So were bothering me the past about day and a half, 2 days. But everything that has been going on with the medication that I'm on has actually really alleviated that. So this is the first time in quite a while that the chronic issues that were plaguing me all the time have cropped up. So I'm quite happy that it's just been a couple of days of it rather than back to persistent. And that's all expected. So anyway, I think that's about it. I'm trying to not let things get to me this week. It has been a lot. It seems like in the political sphere, things have very significantly ramped up, really. And I don't know what to think about that. Don't know, really. But I have a lot of recommendations for you, and this is probably going long already. So let's quickly get through my several recommendations. So firstly, Katie Lumpton from Books and Things has been doing a bunch of anniversary type stuff. And so check out all of that. But primarily, I wanted to point you over to a Q&A that Katie did, answering questions about writing, editing, reviews, and more. So this was kind of specifically about her life as an author rather than her life as a booktuber. And I found that really fascinating. She very intentionally gave kind of a glimpse behind the curtain of her authoring and how she approached that. Very, very cool. Next, I will give you Page Turners with Katja did a video on translated small presses that are losing their grants and the importance of funding those programs. So I think this is the second video kind of on that topic that I've recommended, but another fantastic one, really, really worth checking out. Cruel Reader's Thesis, who recently returned to BookTube after a long hiatus. Very thrilled to see them back. Did a review on a recently released biography of Marsha P. Johnson, a LGBT activist and trans woman who was very prominent and very well beloved in the past throughout the AIDS crisis and gay liberation movement. And then finally, kind of a fun one, an author chat. Lee Reads, who's not a huge channel, definitely larger than me, but kind of a channel that could certainly use a signal boost, I think, did a great conversation with the author Kate Elliott, who's kind of one of those consistent authors writing really epic fantasy, a couple of sci-fi, but primarily epic fantasy, and just a staple that is in a certain niche with beloved readers and just hasn't taken off, but yet has been out there publishing loads and loads of books for years. Big, chunky, epic fantasy. So definitely check out Lee Reed's conversation with Kate Elliott. And that is it, I think, for this week. Earl is helping me turn over my winter and summer closet. I had to give him a decoy hanger. You are in trouble, aren't you? How can such a small boy make so many troubles? Oh, I can't let you go without an Earl update. Not much to share. It's been agreed that he is probably ready to go back to the shelter and go up for adoption, but they didn't need to kind of prepare things and get ready for him and have space. So he's still here, he is still waiting, and he's still annoying my cats, but he is hopefully, fingers crossed, soon to be going back. So anyway, with that, I will say, I hope you have a wonderful week in reading and in life. Definitely consider your hydration levels right now as the country is dealing with a lot of heat. And thank you so very much for watching.